Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fiercely Spiritual podcast. I'm your host, Sandra Ray, and today I'm delighted to be here with Kathrin Niesel. And Kathrin is an international coach and healer. She's based in Berlin, in Germany, and she works with female entrepreneurs to release success and money blocks on the subconscious, energetic, and karmic realm. Kathrin, thank you so much for being here with us. It's so lovely to have you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much, Sandra.
So, what I want to do is just to explain a little bit to everyone about you, about your journey to becoming a coach and healer, and how you became an international coach and started focusing on working with female entrepreneurs to release these success and money blocks. So maybe start with yourself and how you started out.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it started with my self-healing journey, which probably started around about 15 or 16 years ago. And I remember by accident, I ended up going to a shaman who was recommended to me. And I remember very instinctively the first session, I was like, wow, I want to do this. Like this was my initial reaction, like working with her and like the relief she gave me and all that. But I also used to be a huge sabotage. I always like to refer to myself as the queen of self-sabotage. So it took me quite some while, but somehow I was very inspired by that. And through her work, my business career in the corporate world really changed from working in customer care, which, was a good job, but it wasn't fulfilling. I eventually became an international trainer for self-leadership, self-management, time and task management, and project management. And I traveled, around the world to, train other peoples and also coach them on that. But because of my private journey at the same time, I'm deeply involved with yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. I, dove into the spiritual world more and more because I instinctively also felt that this kind of like was the missing piece for me. And I used to be the typical party girl, in Berlin. Like I would go from one party to another. I had lots of DJ friends. So this wasn't really anything I thought about, like this wasn't anything I was interested in. But as soon as I entered that world, I was like, that's it. That's what I've been missing, and and then while I was like traveling the world, being an international trainer and coaching young professionals to really, lead themselves. And I also knew that there was a very important aspect missing, and that was the spiritual aspect. I was able to incorporate meditation a little bit into my trainings, but really what I really wanted to do, I wasn't able. So eventually I made the decision to leave this corporate job, which was, very well paid and with an awesome company and all that. But I was like, no, this feels like a corset. I need to do what I want to do. And
that was such a brave step. It's such a hard decision to make.
Yeah, but looking back or during that phase, I also knew it would be more hard for me to stay where I am instead of following me. And I actually picked a card. So I was like on my yoga mat, and I have this I'm very much connected to Archangel Michael. And I used to pick a card every morning. And that morning I picked a card, and it said it is time to leave the negative situation. And I instinctively knew what it was meant to be.
And at that stage, had you already started coaching and healing, or was that like a sideline, or where were you at?
Mm-hmm. So I was a coach in my business life in the corporate world. I worked with lots of, young professionals and coached them for many years. And I, in 2011, so this was 2018 when I made the decision to leave the corporate world. And in 2011, I was on a sabbatical in India. as a yogi, I eventually was like, I need to go there. I just need to go to this country. And there I was introduced to Reiki and had an amazing experience for myself. And shortly after that experience, I was offered to be trained or introduced to Reiki in India right away. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. This was like, wow. And then when I started working with my shaman, she also, I think it was either the first or second session, she said to me, like, you're supposed to do this. This is your job. And I was like, like, I don't know about you, but I was this typical party girl. And then this shaman woman, telling me like, by the way, you are also a healer. I was a bit suspicious. Like on the one side, I kind of wanted to do it, but on the outside, I was like,
And when you started doing like the Reiki and the spiritual stuff, did you find the inclination to go and party was decreasing? Or were you still wanting to go out partying all the time?
No, that had stopped before.
Okay.
That had stopped before. Because I actually, like being the queen of self-sabotage, one way I sabotaged myself very deeply was like believing that I didn't belong, that I wasn't likable, that I wasn't lovable. So I completely retrieved myself from everything and everyone. And so the partying was kind of like something to distract me from my,
the reason I ask is when I was in college, I was the same. I was going out all the time. We were, having loads of socials, and every day was a weekend practically. But I found when I started doing Reiki that suddenly I didn't have the urge to go out or to drink alcohol, and I just started retreating from that. It just kind of was a natural thing. It just happened of its own accord. And all my friends are like, come on, let's go, let's party. And I was kind of like, no, I don't feel like it. It just wasn't giving me the same satisfaction, I suppose, or whatever I was getting from it before. So yeah, it's interesting to hear your story and how that progressed for you.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped partying. I was never super big on drinking, but I actually developed a kind of a drug habit. I used to, like in Berlin, I don't know how it is in Ireland, but in Berlin, everybody smokes pot. And I became a big pot smoker, like weed, and which was basically the assistant of my self-sabotage, because that allowed me to really, just be by myself. Luckily, I have a dog. Otherwise, I probably at some point in my life wouldn't have left my apartment at all. And I also always was a very active person. I always did my yoga. I always did my sports. But so even though I was doing the yoga, the Reiki, I, on the other side, was still like not really, I guess, believing in what I was feeling, because I was so detached from myself.
So it's interesting. Sorry to interrupt. It's almost like this dichotomy where on one side, you're this like coach going around coaching other people, and it seems that you were very confident in that, but then on the inside you were feeling very insecure. Would that be true?
Yeah, and I think this is like a friend of mine, we always joke, when we were little babies, we fell into this like bowl of magic potion which infused us with super confidence. So I was always, since I'm a little child, this super confident, joyous being, and I always loved life. And that, I guess, is a reason why it took me so long that my self-worth, how I perceived myself, like whether or not I'm lovable, whether or not I'm worthy, whether I'm not being capable to succeed with anything, that this couldn't hold up with my confidence. And I think it must have been like, I was probably 27 or 28 when I finally understood that there was quite a gap, between my confidence and self-worth. And so it is quite an interesting, because I think most people who know me personally would have never expected, me being, having such low self-worth and these doubts about myself.
And you're certainly not alone. I think so many people are going around with this facade and acting out these roles. and pretending that they're okay, and, you know, putting this face to their colleagues or their family or their friends, whereas then they're on the inside in inner turmoil in some respect. So I think, you know, nearly everybody has that on some level. And it is certainly becoming more and more prevalent as we see people, you know, with stress levels and just the amount of pressure that people are under with work, and of course with everything that's going on in the world, you know, with lockdowns, and at the moment we're doing homeschooling. And even though I teach, you know, meditation about angels, and I joke to my friends, I'm like, I'm just not cut out for homeschooling. It's just not my thing. But if I'm struggling with it, I can't imagine how other people are dealing with it who maybe don't have the tools and the resources that I would have to turn to. But you were saying you left your full-time role and then you started out with your own business. Would that be right? Okay.
Yes.
So how did that go?
Well, not so good. Because I mean, I already had done quite some work on my self-worth and self-perception, and I already had dabbled into, you know, how to reprogram our minds, you know, by certain ways of thinking, and, you know, introduced myself to NLP and stuff, because I was a trainer for self-leadership. So, you know, this was something I was very much invested in. And because of that, I guess I stumbled across hypnosis, and I did a training. I don't know if you have heard about Marissa Peer, rapid transformational therapy. So I'm trained in rapid transformational therapy, and but what I didn't understand, or I guess there was like, you know, my confidence, and having been this like trainer on self-leadership, self-management, project management, I was like, I can figure this out by myself. I can do this. This is like no problem. Turns out, yeah, well, not only there were so many things I had absolutely no idea about, but also on the other side, I wasn't aware how deeply I was still sabotaging myself, not trusting myself, not believing in myself, in my abilities. You know, it's a different thing. I've been working in this company for 12 years. I was completely confident. Everybody knew me, you know, like this was my jam, so to say. But stepping out of this comfort zone and presenting myself, where I, you know, with something which was so dear to my heart, that was a complete different story, you know. And so that was a very interesting phase of my life, because for the very first time in my life, I actually experienced fear. Like, in a way I could feel it, because before that I was like, oh, I'm not a fearful person. And this is where I also very actively worked with angels and also other you know, modalities to really let go of this fear, and to eventually be able to become clear, to see how I sabotaged myself, because self-sabotage comes in so many different ways, you know, especially when it comes to success in business for us women, because we have been pushed down for thousands of years, that I realized, and this is what I'm here for. And this is what I'm here for, to help other women to overcome, to really let go of these success blocks, to be able to create the financial freedom we deserve and we desire and we want, because awesome women do awesome stuff with money.
So through overcoming your own patterns of self-sabotage, and I say overcoming, but of course, everything is a work in progress. I don't think we're ever done. You know, we as coaches and healers are always working on our own selves first and foremost. And I love that you've been through it, because it helps you to understand what other people are going through. So you decided to focus on helping women who are going through these sabotage patterns and to work through them. And I'd like to talk about the way that kind of manifests, because often self-sabotage it's not something that we notice necessarily.
Nope.
It's something that's going on in the background, but we can't really see it. So how does that show up for a lot of people? Are there main things that come up time and again, or is it different for everyone?
Yeah, that's the thing. There are typical signs like procrastination, for example, which is so ironic because when I used to be a trainer, you know, I would approach this from a logical perspective. But procrastination, in most cases, is really a fear of success and or a fear of not succeeding. But these two reasons, especially when you are a confident, ambitious woman who like, this is what I'm supposed to do, it's not obvious that there's a fear lingering inside of you, a fear of success. So procrastination is a very typical sign, and it has nothing to do with being lazy or not being focused. It's actually mostly the opposite. And also reprioritizing, like you make your list of to-dos for the day, and then you sit down and suddenly, yeah, but you know, instead of doing this really important to do, let's just work on the contracts first. You don't have any content out there, you don't have any clients, but you decide to work on contracts first, like the least important thing, instead of, for example, creating content that converts, just as an example. Or also a very common one, and you can meet that on any level of success, is to constantly change strategies, excuse me, or ideas. Like you have this great idea, you think, oh my God, this idea will be my next big bang. And you start researching, you start working on that idea. And then when it gets maybe a bit more tricky, or when it's like close to coming to an end and to release it, to publish it, whatever, you're like, I don't know, it doesn't feel so good. And suddenly a new, way more awesome idea pops up, and, you know, and then you just like let the old idea just like sit in the shelf, and you jump onto the next idea without ever having the benefit of really, you know, having success with it. And also with business strategies, changing business strategies.
Not following through. It's that shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's another, very, I don't know how typical it necessarily is, but it has like these symptoms of like, I know everything better. I've done this. I know all about this. Like I also had, you know, like I used to be an international trainer for X, Y, and Z. Why should I need help, you know? And I've tried that. I wrote a book about this. You cannot teach me anything about this. But the success doesn't show up. Or, you know, the success didn't show up as expected. And you go like, I want to throw everything, you know, this doesn't work. And so like, it's basically behaving like a little kid who doesn't get the lollipop she or he wants. And then like, you know, being like upset about it. In German, I call it Trotzkopf. I don't know if there's an English for this actually.
I don't know. It's funny. Germans have words for things that we don't have in English that I always find fascinating. But yeah, it's funny because I noticed what you were saying before, that when I started out, it's like that shiny object syndrome, where there was so many things I wanted to do. And part of it was enthusiasm, but I wanted to do, you know, the one-to-one healing, and I wanted to start my blog, and I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to, you know, start a podcast, and I wanted to do all the things. And I was trying to do all of them at once. And then I really had to reel myself back in and say to myself, I have to focus on one thing at a time. And it was really, really hard because I had so many things I wanted to do. And I was like that little toddler having a tantrum saying, but no, I don't want to just focus on one thing. I want to do it all. But of course I wasn't getting anywhere because I was spreading myself so thinly that I wasn't making the progress I wanted. And It was just like going around in circles.
Yeah, and so these are like very typical behavioral patterns of sabotaging blocks, self-sabotaging blocks. But then, of course, they are like very common, so to say, beliefs, such as I'm not good enough. You know, this is something most people are somewhat aware of, at a certain age at least. And also a very common one is, who am I to charge that high of a price? Who am I to, present myself as an expert? Who am I to do this or that? Who am I to say I'm a healer? And also, like, what would other think of me? Like, this is a big fear that holds people back to go live.
And I think for healers in particular, or in this holistic and spiritual space, when we start working as, entrepreneurs and coaches, and working as self-employed people who previously, I was the same as you, I was working in the corporate field, I was working in marketing and PR and events, and it was all very glamorous, and I was very successful. And when it came to working for myself and presenting what I knew, all of those things came up. Who am I to do this? What, qualifications do I have? Even though I was trained as a Reiki master healer and in meditation, but all those questions, am I qualified? And of course, pricing is a huge one that comes up, where healers give away their services for free and think that they can't charge for it. And I know a lot of people who are listening will resonate with that, and they'll say, oh, well, it's a friend. So that's a huge one as well.
Yeah. And so these are like very common kind of like behavioral and then mindset patterns. And then, of course, very often my clients have fear of success, very deeply rooted, very often from previous lives, especially women. It's just, having ancestors in Europe, most likely you have been burned in one of your lives or raped for being who you are. And these fears are sometimes so deeply ingrained in us, that we don't, no, I can't show my gift. I can't make money with this because,
So this is really big. I want to go into this a little bit more, because that fear of success, often people don't even realize that that's a fear. A lot of people know the fear of failure, but not realize that there's a fear of success. But what I wanted to ask you is, can somebody have both at the same time, a fear of failure and a fear of success? Because often it's not one or the other.
No, it can be both. I think the fear of success, for example, could be from a previous life or several previous lives, or parallel lives, however you see it. And the fear of failure could be from this life, so it could be like this whole bunch of beautiful beliefs that intertwine and block you on these different realms. And then and this is, for example, why I'm so happy that I have this extensive experience in coaching, because I think clearing it on the mindset and emotional level and subconscious energetic level is one thing, but then actually learning how to be successful, that is a conscious effort, having been self-sabotaging myself in so many different ways, learning success is such an important aspect. That I am capable to be successful and also to view my past differently. So you can have both.
So tell me about that a little bit more. When you're working with someone, say it is the fear of success or something like that that's coming up, what are the steps that you take them through in order to address that, to acknowledge that, and to dissolve that belief, and to put in place a new positive belief?
Mm-hmm. So, because I've been working with so many different women and on myself, I came up with this program, and it's a 4-month program where we really first, like on a logical level, realize, okay, what are your behavioral patterns and what are certain beliefs? And also very important, what are the circumstances you grew up in? What is the reality you believe? Like the reality that formed you when it comes to success, when it comes to money, so what are these beliefs? And we go very deep in this aspect, because I cannot help someone with their future if they are not aware of their past and are willing to let go of their past. This is a very important aspect. So then in this program, we have 4 healing trance sessions where we really go deep into like where do these beliefs come from? And mostly they come from certain experiences we made. And it's also very important, always very important to understand, okay, so you experienced this, what conclusions did you make out of that? It's not the experience itself, it's always the conclusion you made from it. And then, we look at like the reality we grew up, we look at the conclusion we made, and then we will form better beliefs. And then also, I'm a big fan of journaling, because this is a great way to really explore the next level version, explore like all these different layers of self-limiting beliefs. That journaling is a big aspect of working with me. I use certain prompts to really dig in deep, to really help them to discover like not only the next level version, how she thinks, how she feels, how she acts, but also then be able to really let her play out in your everyday life. And also what is still lingering within you that hinders you from being that version. So it's basically, this is basically repeating itself over this course, because we start with the success and or money blocks, the beliefs around these areas, and then we start building the self-worth and the confidence. Because we are all born completely confident in our worthiness, in our lovability, in being worthy of receiving, like every baby is, like when you look at babies, they are all born with that. And basically what I do is like, we look at all the trash we collected, and then like, okay, do we still need that? No, because that is also a very important aspect for me, is I do not override free will, and I don't want to, and I can't. And so it's always like, okay, do you want to let this go now, or do you want to linger on? Because if someone wants to linger on, I cannot, So yeah, basically that's what happens. We always like look at the past, we look at what is the current situation, and rewrite it and discover what caused it, and then reprogram the mind, basically.
Brilliant. So you mentioned about somebody, if they want to linger in that space, is there any benefit to them lingering in that space? Is it that some people just take a little bit longer? Is there any positives that come out of it, or is it always that they need to keep moving forward?
Well, I mean, that can actually have multiple reasons. There's still like this worthiness or trust issues, that they don't trust that they are worthy of letting go, or that they believe it gives them some sort of benefit. Like if I hold on to that fear of success, I have this awesome excuse to just like, so there can be weird, twisted, not consciously aware reasons why people want to linger on. But it always, and in the end, comes always down to self-worth and trusting in yourself, trusting that you live in a loving universe, and that the universe wants to support you.
So at the end of your 4 months together, is this one-to-one or a group situation?
No, this is a one-to-one. This is an exclusive one-to-one healing and mentoring program.
Okay.
And
so at the end of the 4 months then together working with you, what can they expect? What results do they achieve?
Mm-hmm. So basically, they feel way lighter and more energized. Like more energy is, for example, one of the big things. But of course, that's not the main goal. Many people, like whether they procrastinated or would put off things like this kind of those behavioral things, they've stopped and they're like, ooh, I have an idea and I'm going to launch it. Like, for example, one of my clients, she did a launch in October, and even though she put so much effort in and spent so much money on ads, like her sales rate was like 1%. And after working with me, she had an idea of a new program to launch, and she launched it within like 10 days, and her sales rate was 17%. And she nearly 17.
Wow.
Yeah. And she nearly spent any money on Facebook ads or anything. She just instead of not going live, which she did before, she would go live like on a whim, like, oh yeah, I feel like going live. And through that, she sold tickets and stuff like that. So the fear of presenting yourself online will be gone, you know. And yeah, the success rates go up, and feeling more confident, realizing how worthy you are, because I also include frequency work, you know, in this 4-month program. So it's really like basically a transformational experience, not only for your business, but also for your life.
And tell me about frequency work.
Yeah. So, I mean, we live in a universe built up on frequencies, and those frequencies, you know, can also be because of all those beliefs we collected through all those different generations and stuff, and society and religious, they can be dimmed down, so to say. And what I do with my clients, I allow them to connect with the frequency of abundance, which is basically the frequency of the earth, the nature, and the universe. And I allow them to connect with them so that this energy, they can basically, so that they allow this frequency to flush through their body, through their cells, so that this frequency can actually heal them and cleanse them. And that also means that, you know, sometimes there will be days where you feel really tired, or, you know, like letting go is work, you know. And you suddenly realize things even on a deeper level. And this is why I did this, and this is why I, you know, have this behavioral pattern. And then again, it's your free will. But doing this aspect of adding frequency work to this program has been such a game changer, because it's all about frequencies. And yes, we can work with our mind, but if you actually allow the people to connect with the frequency of abundance, of fulfillment, of completeness, like, it's a whole new healing experience.
So do you work with sound healing and harmonics, or how does that come through?
No. So it's basically, I use trance as my medium, so to say. And but, you know, all the healers I work with, they put themselves in trance, but I put my client into trance. And I'm capable of guiding them into such a deep state of trance that I can allow them to really connect with the universal energy of one. And so that they basically have access to their unlimited potential. And by that, I allow them, or guide them basically, to whatever is needed to be discovered, or I guide them to connect with the energy of frequency of abundance, or whatever is needed, to then really just do it, because we all have this potential, and I just basically guide them to do it. And then, because for me, it's also very important that then, once they have worked with me, and if they choose to, they can continuously use the tools I've taught them and use them for themselves. You know?
Brilliant. So. And I love that you put it back to them, that you're not doing it for them, they're doing it for themselves, and you're empowering them to do it.
That is very important for me. That is super important for me. And that is why it's important. You know, I like finding my niche and finding my ideal client. I understood at some point there are people out there who for sure could benefit working with me. That is not the question, but they are not willing to do their part. You know, so I knew instinctively at some point, I understood that the women I work with, or the men, if they choose to work with me, you know, they are my ideal client, wants to improve and is willing to do the work, because self-improvement is work.
Well, I agree. And you have to be willing to put in the time and the effort.
Yes.
And I think that's one thing, when I was a Reiki healer and I was doing one-to-one healings, that I won't say frustrated me, but I came to a point where I realized that people are coming to me and they're asking me to heal them. And ultimately, their body is healing itself. I was just the conduit. But I didn't like that they kept coming to me saying, fix me or heal me, because they were giving their power away. So now the way I work is I give people the tools and they can go off and use the tools themselves, and they can connect with the angels and learn how to do that. And they're not constantly having to say, fix me or do this, and I love Reiki. Don't get me wrong. I think Reiki is amazing. But I do think that there can be a tendency for some clients to give their power away and just say, fix me, deal with this. I don't want to deal with it. Yeah. So it is so important to empower others and to give them the tools, as you say, to do the work themselves. Yeah. And it's a commitment to doing the work and to saying that I'm going to do this. It's not easy. And here's where probably some self-sabotage patterns come in. But I love that you go through it over a 4-month period, and really it sounds like you're really there for them in a deep way to help them through the process.
Yeah. During these 4 months, they basically have access to me. I don't want to say 24/7, but of course I have my time where I, take care of myself. But I'm basically, it's an exclusive one-on-one, and I want it to be an exclusive one-on-one experience, and I want to combine all these different tools that also help me on my way of recovery. Because if you're a professional self-saboteur, you need someone to cheer you up, to motivate you, to inspire you. And I love that, I love being there for my clients. I love working with them one-on-one and really also pointing out to them, okay, we have to look at this, or we should look at this. And, maybe you use this journal prompts, and let's look at this. And so that is what I have such a passion for that. And this is why I think this one-on-one is ideally for people who are ready for that. But I also am about to launch a group program, because I know some people are not ready for one-on-one. And I think after working with one-on-one clients for quite some time, I'm like, okay, I found a way to put this in a group program, and I'm about to launch that one.
So you're going to be working with groups as well?
Yes, I want to incorporate this so I can give more people the opportunity to really benefit from this amazing program.
Brilliant. Yeah. And do you tend to work with people who are in business, who are spiritual teachers or healers, or do you work with everyone? Is there a criteria for who you work with?
Well, I started my journey focusing on women, but I also have worked with men. If I feel the energy fits, then I also work with men. I do work with, as mentioned, ambitious women. I prefer to work with ambitious women, whether or not they are self-employed, because these principles also work when you are employed, in a corporate job, for example, and you feel like you've been stuck or going in a rut for way too long, and you really want this next promotion or whatever. So this is also possible. And I also have, people who work in the healing industry, if I may say it like this, but I also have artists, who suddenly, she just emailed me yesterday that she just sold 6 of her paintings, so it doesn't really matter for me. It's more important that the women are wanting to really tap into their full potential and let go of all the drama, and just, that is for me most important.
It sounds so powerful. And if people want to work with you, how do they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram and in Facebook. Currently, the pages are still in German, but they can reach me at hello@kathrinniesel.com. But maybe we can link it in your description box if something like this exists.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, and my informational page on the self-sabotage resolution, my signature program, is available in English. So they can check out the sales page for the self-sabotage resolution if they are intrigued to look at it, and if they're intrigued to let go of any self-sabotage.
Brilliant. So
And of course, if they speak German, they can find me at kathrinniesel.com.
Wonderful. Well, there's people listening from all around the world and also from Germany. So I'm sure you will have a few people who will go on and have a look. But your program, as you say, is in English, the page for that, so they can have a look. So we'll put all the links in the show notes. And I hope that whoever needs to find you will find you and get what they most need from it. I think it's wonderful, the work that you're doing, and so needed. So well done. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I probably could stay talking with you for another couple of hours, but you've given us such a wonderful taste into what you do. So thank you so much. If you are an empath who would love to connect with your angels so that you can stop doubting yourself and start trusting you are guided and taken care of, you can also join my free class, How to Get Clear Guidance Without Doubting Your Decisions. So you can go to sandraray.com/angels to get the class straight away. And I'll also put a link in the show notes. So thank you all very much. I will see you very soon for the next episode of the Fiercely Spiritual podcast.
Thank you so much. I had such fun. Thank you so much, Sandra.
Bye-bye.
Bye.